Then one day, I kid you not, it took like 3-4 weeks. One day, it just went on its own. I was like, oh,
I can talk my chest.
I was so excited.
There you go.
Perfect.
Jason, welcome, brother. Welcome back.
Alex, thank you. It's good to be here, man.
Another episode. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen, to another episode of our podcast. And today, we have a special guest, Jason. Okay.
The one and only.
Welcome.
Thank you.
And today, Jason is a good friend of mine. Okay. We have similar mindsets, similar hobbies, similar interests, similar maybe experiences in life, but also sometimes we have different opinions.
Absolutely.
But we always find a way to learn from each other.
Absolutely.
And today we're going to talk about multiple different topics. We're going to talk about the masculinity for the everyday man, for the daily man, right?
I think that's probably one of the more important things to talk about that nobody talks about.
We'll start off with that, definitely. We're going to learn about controlling your emotions as a man, okay?
Mm-hmm.
The rite of passage, which is very important in becoming a man, and developing a status as a man. So those are the 4 things that we're going to cover today. But we are going to hit it off with the masculinity for the everyday man, right?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's an important topic because we look at what's going on today in media and in the podcast world, right? And we'll call it the world of motivation. You know, we have everything from the feminization of men, right? To just, take a step back, let the woman lead, all that kind of agenda.
The downfall of man.
And then you've got the other extreme, and you've got your Andrew Tates, you've got your Grant Cardones, these people that really push this thing that if you're not at the top, you're nothing.
Top G.
Right.
Yeah.
Which is to me is interesting because I look at people like some of the men that we'll say mentored me, father figure types, my dad, my stepdad, my uncles, where to me they were great men, but they're family men. Yeah. They're not CEOs of companies. They're not leading these great movements, but to me, they were men that helped mold and shape me. And where do they fall in that? And how come society forgets about them, or how come the agenda that's being pushed forgets about them?
Correct.
And what about their characteristics? What about the guy who gets up every morning at 3:30 and drives to work, gets in that garbage truck, and makes sure that your trash is picked up every Tuesday or every Thursday.
So he can provide for his family.
And he provides for his family, and
Exactly.
He's got 2 kids, and he takes them to
and
soccer.
His wife's got nails and hair done, everything's taken
What about
care
that
of.
guy? Can we count him as the epitome of masculinity? I think so. And how come that's
100%.
not being talked about?
100%. I agree with you. And it is the problem that I think right now we're experiencing is exactly what you said. We have, just like in every level of society or any type of work, anything, you have the bottom level, right? The bottom level feeders, you call it, you call it a low life, whatever, but you have the men that just basic drifters or, bad or good, they're just at the bottom, right? You're not going to much with them, they're not going to amount to much, right? It's just by nature or by circumstances, but which we can get into deeper. And then you have the top G's like you just talked about, right? You have the Grant Cardones, the Andrew Tates, the Ed Milettes, the 1%, the singers, the athletes. And in between, you have that massive gap of men, right? Like 90%, I would say like good 80, 90% of good, masculine, honest, hardworking men. Mm-hmm. And nobody talks about them. Mm-hmm. Nobody appreciates them. Everybody just wants to shit on them. Everybody just wants to put them down, call them toxic, and not give them any attention. And not even attention, just basic credit for what they do every fucking day. Like you said, waking up at 3:30 in the morning, going to work to provide for his family.
Absolutely. And it's that piece in the middle that is just kind of left to the wayside, right? But it's kind of the way things are, right? The squeaky wheel gets the grease.
Yeah.
Right? You've got your feminine agenda that's making all the noise and saying, men, take a step back and all that. And then you've got the people up at the top that are the millionaires, and good for them. And I think they have a place in motivating people. I think they have a place in helping people get to the next level, but it needs to be identified as that, as, hey, I'm here to just push you to whatever your next level is.
Yeah.
And I look at someone like my stepdad who has worked 2 jobs since 30 years, as far back as I can remember. He's always worked 2 jobs, even to this day. And to me, he's a great masculine man because he married my mom, who already had 4 kids. Mm-hmm. He had 3 kids of his own. The first 4 that weren't his were never treated anything different than what his own kids were treated as.
That takes a lot.
Absolutely, especially at such a young age. He was 26 years old when he married my mom. And he's been a great example of a father. He's been a great example of what it is to be kind and gentle. He never raised a finger to us. He's always been there for us when we needed something. And he showed us what a great work ethic is. To me, that's masculinity. That's a man. He took on a responsibility. He owned it 100%, and he excelled at it.
It's phenomenal.
You know? And so I think those people are the ones that are forgotten, or those are the ones that are not looked up to. Because you have the guy showing off his Bugatti, right?
Bugatti.
You have Grant Cardone pulling up in his
helicopter,
his private jet. And
with
don't
GC
get me wrong,
yeah.
they all play a role in life. And I'm grateful for their motivation, and I'm grateful for the inspiration that they provide. And I think they have their place. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the same time, you can't look down on people who aren't doing what they're doing.
Yeah.
And it can oftentimes, in my opinion, be misleading to a 20-year-old kid who's thinking, well, I don't have that, so I guess I'm not shit.
Yeah.
I don't have that, so I guess I'm not, I'm not those guys, so I'm not a man.
Well, here's what I think about what you said. It's true. And I think the reason why what you said is on point is because the dudes don't understand there's levels to this game. Okay? There's levels to this game. Okay? You can't just become, wake up tomorrow and now you're fucking Grant Cardone or Top G of the world, right? Or somebody or Jocko, right, or whoever. You gotta take the necessary steps, right? You gotta go from here to the next level, to the next level, to the next level, and eventually you're gonna become somebody, right? Mm-hmm. And the benefits of that is, first of all, you develop yourself as a man. You learn what it's like to be a man. Okay, you learn what it's like to be amongst other men, how to conquer. You first have to conquer yourself. Okay, then you will be able to conquer the world. Okay, and take those crypto billionaires who become crypto, millionaires overnight, dude, or those, Insta famous or Instagram celebrities, whatever you call it, going viral and shit. I've seen some of them. Mm-hmm. I had the unfortunate privilege to actually meet a few of them, and as a man, I've learned that I have absolutely zero respect for some of these dudes, because they're a certain person, certain character on social media, but in real life, you ain't shit. Like, I remember I met one of them, and he just acted like such a pathetic little, right, boy, that right. I immediately right after talking to him, I went on my Instagram and I followed him. Like, you had to make such a horrible impression of me as a man that I bother taking out my phone, opening up the Instagram, typing your name, and I was so disgusted by your behavior, I fucking unfollowed you.
No, it makes sense.
I just don't want to see you again. Yeah. That should tell you something. And I have a very thick skin, but just like I've been following a false prophet. Mm-hmm. You're one person in real life. You try to be something, but in real life, you're absolutely you're not even a man.
Yeah.
So there's levels.
And I get that part, and I completely agree with you. I think it's important to understand is that it's like the body, the human body, right? And I grew up in the church, and we always talked about this in church, but it's true in day-to-day life. Your finger will never be your brain. But your finger has a very important function. And it has to do that in order for you to enjoy life and do life to its best ability, right?
True.
Same thing with your heart. Your heart will never be your toe.
No.
Right? Your eyes will never be your mouth. But without one of those, life's going to get very difficult.
Yeah.
If you didn't have your eyes, life just gets that much more difficult. And I think when it comes to like masculinity, and at least with some of the agendas being pushed, is that not everyone's going to be a CEO of a company. You cannot have a world of CEOs.
That's the beauty of this world. If we all wanted to be CEOs, this is going to be a boring fucking society where all they teach in school is how to be a CEO, which is very stressful. How to be a CEO. Everybody lives how to be a CEO. It's so boring. That's the beauties in diversity.
Imagine a world full of, we'll say, type A personalities.
Oh, God, dude.
Where nobody's willing to submit to anybody. Dude. And everyone's at each other's throats because everyone wants to be in charge. It just can't happen. Every company has one CEO, one CTO, not one janitor, but
everybody has a role.
Everyone has a role, and as long as you fill the role, and I think that's what's key. Yeah. You've never seen your finger try and be an elbow.
No.
Right?
No, that's true.
You've never eaten something and had an issue with your arm trying to be that throat. Like it just doesn't happen. Every body part has its function.
It's nature. It's natural.
And as long as your elbow's functioning 100%, right? As long as your neck is doing its thing and turning, life's going to be enjoyable. And I think that's, at the end of the day, that's what it has to be, is if you, Alex, are living your life to the best of your ability and pushing yourself and driving yourself to be the best version of yourself, then life's going to be great.
What do you think the purpose of that? The purpose of making the best version of yourself? I think I figured it out, but I want to know your opinion. Like what you said is 100% true. I follow it the same way you follow it, but what is the ultimate goal for that? To make
it's going to differ from person to person, but I think at the end of the day, it's living life with intention.
100%.
And so, and you and I are talking, before this, but it's like going to work in the morning. I can drive to work, but be doing 100 different things, texting and being on the phone and arguing with my girlfriend and texting my mom and like all these different things. But you're just going to let life happen to you, right? You're going to get in an accident. You're going to miss that stop sign. You ever driven to work and think back,
don't know how the fuck did I get here?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah, it's just a blur because your brain was not there.
Yeah, you're like an autopilot.
Right? And you missed out on the last hour, whatever your commute is.
Yeah.
And I think it's the same way for human beings. Life's going to pass you by if you let life happen, as opposed to you taking control. And whatever that control is, like I said, it's easy to go down that rabbit hole and be like, I'm going to make yesterday better than today, and I'm going to be 110%, and I'm going to become the CEO of this company, and I'm going to move up. And that can be dangerous, I think, because it'll stress you out if that's not what your intention truly is. At the core of your being, if you're that garbage man, if you're that accountant, whatever that job may be, if you're the CEO, whatever it is, if your goal is to be just the best version of that and be the best version of a father, the best version of a boyfriend, the best version of a son, wherever you're at in your life, if you're intentionally doing everything to the best of your ability, I think that's when life's going to be more enjoyable.
I agree with that. And I think to add to that, for me, the reason why I want to become the best version of myself. Well, first of all, I'm at the point in my life where I've clearly by now realized, after spending at least like a dozen years just working on myself and my own, mental state, my spirituality, my body, my mind, there's an enormous amount of benefits to that, just investing in yourself. And I saw the beauty of that in my own life, in my own body, in my own mind. And ultimately, my goal is to create the best version of myself and then take that version and give it to the world. Okay? Because I was listening today, just on the way home from work, I was listening to this short reel. I forgot who the name of the gentleman was saying. It's like, it doesn't matter if you own, at some certain point, it doesn't matter if you make like $100,000 a year or you make $100 million a year, right? At the end of the day, it comes a point where me and you're still going to go to the same hospital at some point, right? We're still going to drive the same road. You might fly there. I'll drive there, right? Or, we're still going to go to the same country or same vacation spot. Again, you might fly fucking on a private plane. I'm flying business, for example. But you start to acquire so much money that it's, at this point, everything's the same. So now what matters is, what do you give to the world? Okay? What do you do with that money? Okay, you've earned that money by being the best version of yourself.
Special guest.
I was a Chuck pussy, man. Whoa. And wow. And just to be able to give that back to the world, I think that's what it comes down to for me.
Yeah.
Essentially.
Yeah. No, and it makes sense. And at the end of the day, I think it just comes down to like, what do you want and what are you going after?
Yeah.
And one of the issues that I have with, or I shouldn't say issues because that's probably not the right way to say it. One of the concerns I have with like today's modern motivation and YouTube is we're constantly inundated that if you're not succeeding, then you're failing
at a certain level. Yeah, if you're not succeeding at a certain level.
Well, not even at a certain level. Like a lot of things, and that's why I'm a little leery of like certain motivational conventions
because
that people go to.
Yeah.
Certain ones, not all. But I look at the difference of like the way Jocko speaks.
Yeah.
Right, where he's all about just personal accountability.
Yeah.
Right. He doesn't tell people you need to become the CEO or you're in shit. He tells people, hey, you're accountable to yourself. You need to get off your ass and work. You need to be disciplined.
Yeah.
And that's it.
Well, I think what matters is what's your version of success, Jason?
Well, so to finish my point, I think that's the dangerous part is that if you listen too much because you're going to be a product of what you put in your ears.
100%.
Right, which is one reason I stopped listening to hip hop so much because a lot of it's just trash.
For real, you stopped listening to hip hop?
A lot of it. at the core, every so
Yeah.
often, I still get into some, NWA and Snoop
That's
Dogg,
old school stuff.
like some
yeah.
old school stuff.
That's
But
to
if
keep
you
in our
look,
hearts.
like, really listen to what hip hop is nowadays, right?
It's garbage.
It's my gold chains,
Yeah.
it's my
Pussy.
girls, it's my cars, it's
Yeah.
my houses. It's a lot of it's about drugs,
Yeah.
right? Flipping, duffel bags full of money
Yeah.
and washing it, and
Cash money. Yeah.
right. It's that Scarface mentality,
Clout.
right?
All that stuff.
And what you put into your system is what's gonna really dictate your life.
Yeah.
And so if you're constantly listening to, if you're not working hard and you're not pushing yourself hard enough and you're failing, you're gonna feel that way. You're gonna get into that depression mode of like, oh man, I'm 40 years old. I'm not a millionaire yet. What's going on? Okay, forget the millionaire status. What do my friends think about me? And not that you have to be in that mindset of what your friends think about you.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, what impact are you leaving in someone's life? Like if I were to die tomorrow, what would Alex say? What would my mom say? What would my friends say? What would my dad say? Because that's the true impact. Money comes and goes. You talk to millionaires. How many millionaires have that story of they made millions and they lost it, and then they made millions and they lost it?
How
and then
many?
More millions. Tons, because money does come and go. Your possessions will come and go. But the impact that I have in your life, that's the most important thing. And that impact needs to be a genuine thing. I don't wake up every morning and say, okay, what's Alex going to think about me today? Me living my truest life, me being the best version of myself, to whatever degree that is, whether it's, and I truly believe this based on what I know of your character. If I were a multimillionaire CEO of my own company, or I were the janitor at McDonald's, you would respect me because of my character.
Yeah.
Not because of, what car I pulled up in and, who I know and celebrity friends and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah.
That ultimately, to me, that's what it boils down to. And I think that's where people need to be careful of what they put in their system and truly define what they want to be. And at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what you want to be as long as it's the best version of that.
Well said. I would agree with that. Good.
No.
Let's talk for a second about control of emotions for a man.
Oh, that's tough, bro. Men are more
mastering your emotions.
Yeah, men, and this is true. Men are more emotional than women, in my opinion.
I think we have certain. Well, in what way? Because I think we experience certain emotions a lot harder than women do. Okay, and women experience certain emotions a lot harder than we do. Like anger, for example. Men experience anger completely different than women do.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, sexual desires. Men experience sexual desires different than women do.
True.
Okay, women are more empathetic than men are, right? Women can relate to you better than men. We're more factual, like we're more logical. We're more of a disciplinarians, right?
Right.
Women are the ones who can get emotional, who can allow themselves get into the vibe, into the energy, right? And we have to hold ourselves accountable for our own emotions. So what I believe is that you become a man when you really learn how to control your emotions and not let your emotions control you. That's one of the key factors of becoming a man. Not only do you become a man when you handle your own, it's like a cycle. You become a man when you handle your own, you become a man. I believe Yellow Wolf said that. I learned a long time ago. But it makes sense, right? Accountability is key. Mm-hmm. If you're not accountable for your actions as a man, if you're the type of person who says, well, it's his fucking fault, or it's her fault, or it's my parents' fault, I was raised this way, I had this drama, like everybody had drama. Get the fuck over it. Everyone had drama, okay? Right. Once you realize that everybody carries some kind of bullshit with them, some kind of skeletons in the closet, life will change. You just realize that some people are better at hiding it, Or you're not with them 24/7, right? You see them for 1, 2, 3 hours a week, or maybe a month. Good shit enough. And, you hear all the best, because nobody will come out here. Like, whenever I see you, I don't come out here, hey, Jason, my life is so fucked up. I had problems at work, I had problems with business. My girlfriend's not listening to me. My cat's not listening to me. This and that. No. I come to see you to get the good vibes,
Right.
I come with open heart. Yeah, I can talk to you about my struggles or ask for you for advice, but I'm here to get some of your energy, give you some of my energy. We have a good time. We talk about instant topics. We have a cigar. We drink some good, good whiskey. It's re-energizing for me. You know, and I can go back to my bullshit the next day, be like, okay, grind's back on, you know, and in your mind, you'd be like, well, this dude is doing something with his life, or vice versa. And I'm like, oh, Jason's on the shit. Like, remember, I haven't seen you for a while, and I see you again, and you're like all yoked up, and you got the damn Brazilian beard. I was like, damn, I love you, bro.
It's
you
gone now, but
you look great. But I don't know the struggle you went through.
Right.
For like 6 to 8 months that I haven't seen you, you know, and I know for a fact, you know, you have a tough job, you have, you know, you handle your own shit. So I know there's a struggle that came with it, but you persevere. Everybody sees the end result. Nobody sees the fucking work you put in every day behind it, you know.
Of course.
And everybody gets emotional about it. Well, this is overnight success. No, this 12 years of self-development and work on myself, you know. This is you know what I do. Like I have a couple of guys that I like mentor, you know, younger guys. Like one is 19, one is 21. And the younger one is definitely like, well, man, I don't think I can do this. You know, it's not working out. It's going to take so I'm like, yeah, it's going to take a while. You know, the guy's 21. He's like, he hit the gym. He took my advice. And like in a couple of months, like, man, I see the results. You know, I'm sticking to the routine, you know. And the younger one's like, well, no, I want instant gratification. Like I went to the gym for 2 weeks and it's not there. So I'm all upset now. Like, blah, blah, blah. Like, dude, control your emotions.
Yep.
What is 2 weeks?
Yep.
Okay. You got to give it 2 months. You got to give it 2 years. Okay, and then you're going to see the results. It doesn't come like that.
Right.
You know?
I think emotion and logic are something that I always get on a soapbox for. And I get excited whenever anybody asks me about you know, emotion. Because I think anytime there's a decision to be made, anytime there's something presented to you, there's going to be two sides of you. There's going to be the dichotomy of the individual, the human being. There's going to be what you want, and there's going to be what's right for you. There's going to be what you want and what's right for the situation.
Correct.
Oftentimes, and this is true for men and women alike, doesn't matter who it is.
For a human being.
For a human being, emotions will rule you if you don't check them.
Yeah.
Right? And there's we won't get into the politics of it all right now, but there's definitely one side of the party that will always sell you on emotion. They'll try and get your emotions worked up into like, oh, you know, illegal immigrants and abortion and
I think both sides of the parties
rights.
do that. One just does a little more, maybe.
Yes, but pulling on the heartstrings is what gets you.
Yeah, of course,
right?
100%.
Right? It's and it's a challenge because sometimes it's true and sometimes it's not. But like you walk out of a store and there's a woman there, you know, begging for money. And I've seen this. I've truly seen this. Where they're begging for money and they have an iPhone. And hey, I don't want to be judgmental. Maybe their daughter or somebody who's more well off gave them that phone and they really are struggling. You never know. But at the same time, you have to make that decision and say, hey, am I going to give this person money that's potentially going to cause them to go buy some alcohol or buy some drugs? It's really not going to put them in a better state. And you don't know, and it's a tough decision to make. But you have to think about it rather than just rely on the emotion of like, oh, they look so sad. Here's $1. Here's $10. Here, and I look at it this way. Like I think I don't know if I told you or not. I want to buy a Tesla. I'm thinking about buying a Tesla.
You're gonna be one of those, huh? You're going from a manly man truck to a Tesla.
I'm still gonna have the truck, but I like the autonomous feature, the auto drive feature.
Oh, the one that just caused an accident in the tunnel, an 8-car collision?
I didn't hear about that, but okay.
It just stopped. You see on the camera, Tesla's driving, and it just like stopped. And it was like boom, 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 stacked. Dude. It was all over the news. Yeah.
Once again, but to get to my point,
yeah,
when it comes to what I want, I'm a very emotional person. And I have no problem saying that. I will tell you, as I've gotten older, I've checked that and I've realized, is this what I need? I drive a company vehicle. I don't have a car payment. I don't pay for insurance. I don't pay for maintenance. I don't pay for gas. I don't pay for any of that. I go buy a personal vehicle, I'm going to have to make the car payment. I'm going to have to put the down payment. I'm going to have to pay for the insurance. I'm going to have to pay for the maintenance, gas or recharge it or whatever. I'm going to have take on that responsibility. But do I need it?
True.
Rewind the clock 15 years ago to 25-year-old Jason, and you're talking to the guy who had at the time, a $50,000 truck with a $750 car payment and like $800 a month in diesel and $400 a month in insurance because I have a horrible driving record. But I didn't care when I bought it. 3 months later, I was regretting it because it was an emotional decision. I wanted it. I need it. Oh, this is going to be so cool.
I've had those.
I need that. Right?
You make a split-second emotional decision.
But when you take a step back and you say, is this right for me? right? So let's take it to the other end of the spectrum, or in a different avenue, I should say. Oftentimes you run into women that are in abusive relationships, right? Physically abusive, emotionally abusive, whatever. It's just not a healthy relationship. And what do you hear so many times? But I love him.
That's what makes it a cycle.
What is love? I think love is twofold. There's an emotional side of it, right? And there's a logical side of it. Love is a feeling, that's for sure. But love is also, man, I'm exhausted and my girl just got home. I know she's tired, but her car's on empty and she hasn't had time to fill her gas. So it's 11 o'clock at night. I'm going to go fill her tank for her so she didn't have to do it early in the morning.
One of the love languages.
Right? Yeah. But it's an action and it's a logical move because, and you believe this, you're a man, you're a protector, you're a provider. I'm going to go take care of her, make sure she didn't have to do that little thing, right? To make sure she's safe. So she didn't have to stop. When she calls you on the way home and says, hey, I'm going to go get gas, and it's 11 o'clock at night, you say, babe, don't worry about it. Come home. I'll go put gas in your car for you, right? That's the action part of it. To me, that's the logical side of it. You don't feel like doing it, but at the same time, hey, I'm going to take care of that responsibility. Love is two sides. There's a logical and there's an emotion. Mm-hmm. And I think we need to look at everything we do as, is this logical or is this emotional? And when you hear that, you have a sister, right? Yeah. If your sister was in an abusive relationship, outside of you going to rip his head off.
I probably already have.
Right. But outside of that, if she was in an abusive relationship and she told you, but Alex, I love him, would you be like, oh, well, you love him, that's okay then. No. I didn't account for that, never mind. No, just because you feel something doesn't make it a good thing. And so to go back to controlling your emotions, a man needs to look at all situations, say, is this emotional or is this logical? And I deal with this at work all the time, right? I'm in construction management. We deal with contractors that don't want to perform. And I've had contractors come in just upset. They're in a bad mood. And you never know what people are going through, relationship problems or whatever. Or they're just jerks, whatever. And I've had people yell in my office. My emotional side could snap back at them. You want to yell at me? Let's go. I'm going to yell back. Or I could say, get out of your system. Because at the end of the day, what's more important? For me to get the project done and make the client happy, or to let my ego fly off the handle and say, you want to go toe-to-toe? Let's do this. Yeah. And in the meantime, we're doing that. Guess what's happening out in the field?
The project is frozen.
It's frozen.
Not moving.
Nothing's happening. Yeah. His ego gets more inflated and he pulls his guys off the job. Yeah. Or I just say, it's not even worth fighting. You want to yell at me? Go ahead and yell at me. Right? And I think we've talked about this in the past, but I look at someone like Jocko. Jocko talks about this, and I heard one of his podcasts, and I thought it was amazing. He could wrap someone into a pretzel without even thinking about it.
Yeah.
Right?
That guy is a gorilla when it comes to rolling.
But he says, dude, I'll walk away. Someone comes at me, I'll walk away. I'll walk away, I'll walk away, I'll walk away. Like, that's his ultimate, I'll walk away. Outside of you putting your hands on me, I'm walking away. Because it's not worth it. Why? Yeah. And that's true emotional control.
It's funny because I remember when I just started doing martial arts back when I was a little kid, right? I was just a teenager, right? I remember I was Taekwondo, right? I remember the first instructor that I ever had in any kind of martial art. One of the things that was teaching us, control your emotions. Do not let your anger take over you. I'm teaching you certain skills that will not only teach you how to defend yourself, but also how to hurt others. When properly used, they can hurt other people. Control your emotions, okay? Not only when it comes to defending yourself, but also hurting others. Okay, just because you can doesn't mean you have to. Right? And then, different martial arts, a little bit of boxing. And then I remember the most recent one of the instructors, the main instructor that I had, the head instructor in the jiu-jitsu school in 10th Planet, he pretty much teaching the same thing. Every single one of them said, hey, it's all about control your emotions. Even when you're in the middle of it, right? Even when you're rolling with somebody, right? You that person's trying to choke you out, submit you, right? You have to control your emotions. You got to control your breathing first and foremost, okay? If you let go of your breathing, you're not how to control your breathing, you will gas out and you lose the fight. Right. Control your breathing. With that, if you're not panicking, then you control your emotions, okay? And then once you control your emotions and your breathing, you can now calculate your next move. If you're starting panicking and you start breathing, you start gassing out, and you're like, oh my God, I'm going to lose, you're not able to process your next move.
Right.
It's like chess, but chess doesn't require you fighting somebody and sweating and, drinking their sweat and then drinking your sweat. No, and then somebody trying to choke you out. It's very gross. It's very gross, dude.
I don't want to drink
The first
anyone's
time I
sweat,
ever
not even my
had,
own.
the first time I've ever tasted another man's sweat, I shit you not, brother. I've tasted like the guy's on top of me, right? And his sweat, just I see it collectively going down from his forehead, down past his nose, past his eyes, circle on right here on his lips, and just form a huge drop. And just the drop is going straight in my mouth, dude. And I was like,
sweet, sweet man
motherfucker.
love.
Dude,
Sweet, sweet man love.
I became so disgusted. I was able to overpower him, but I remember seeing that it's just coming down, dude. It's a very close.
I just can't, dude.
I'm telling you, man. You gotta try it though.
The way you describe that, really, I feel like I've tasted it, and I appreciate you.
Oh man, but the point is, even then, you have to be able to control your emotions.
Absolutely.
When you go somewhere and you with your family, you're with your loved one, you're with your girl, or even at the job, right? You can let your ego take over. Most of the time, right? It's gonna be, if not every single time, 100% of the time, if you make a decision or you act upon anger, it's gonna be a bad decision. Hence the saying: don't act when you're angry. Don't promise anything when you're happy, right? And there's a couple of more things, but just cool down a little bit.
At least for me in my situation, when I'm at work, a lot of times, and I've used this in relationships before, right? Because men and women are different. Men want one thing, women want another, and a lot of times you just have to have that conversation. That's
Are you
not,
sure? Because that's
what
you're making it sound like we were different.
we are different. We are very different. We are not equal.
I love it. Go
We're not
ahead.
the same.
You know where I'm going with this one.
I know exactly where you're going with it. But at the end of the day, no matter what the situation is, you have to look at what the goal is.
Yeah.
What is your end game? Like if you and I disagree
Correct.
on what color this padding should have been.
Hey man, it took me a while to put it away.
I know, and
Leave my padding
I
alone.
think black is great. But let's just say, hypothetically speaking, I wanted pink. Right? Let's say we're 50-50 on this. Let's say I wanted pink.
Yeah.
We could sit here and argue all day long and be at a moot standstill.
Yeah.
Be at an impasse to where we're not getting anywhere with it. And now the podcast is being held up. You haven't been able to move forward with it. Or one of us, right? And I would say me, because pink is weird.
I know you like pink.
Oh, yeah. Leave me alone. But
Alex would like it. He's got a pink pistol.
right. At the end of the
I
day,
want to bring you here one day.
I hope you do, bro. At least let me watch, because I was with him on Saturday. But,
Really?
Oh yeah,
I
yeah.
love that guy. He's gonna be
Oh,
here.
he's great. He's great, dude.
Oh,
We replaced his. It sounds weird. We replaced his back door at his house. Yeah. Well, we won't talk about.
I actually like that back door.
Yeah. No,
Yeah,
we
that's pretty
changed
cool.
it up. It's brand new.
Nice.
But at the end of the day, it's what's more important, the color or what the goal is. The goal is to get
goal.
the podcast going.
Yeah.
The goal is to get the soundboard up. It doesn't really matter what color it is.
No.
So why am I going to stick to my guns on something that doesn't matter?
Correct.
So if you're having a disagreement or an argument or a debate or a discussion with a coworker, your wife, your boss, your girl, a friend, doesn't matter what it is, what is the goal? Is the goal to resolve it? Or is the goal to be that picky on, well, it's either pink, Alex, or we're not doing this thing,
Yeah.
right?
I think the issue is that, I learned that just a few years ago. When you have an argument with somebody, right? Debate, or when you have an argument with somebody, the goal is not to prove your point. The goal is to understand another person's perspective. And I swear to you, when I started practicing that, when I started trying to understand that, a lot has changed in my life. I remember I had an argument with, like a debate with a friend of mine, and it got very heated, and he was trying to prove his point. I just sat there and I like, let me practice this. And I sat there and I listened. And I kid you not, I understood, not that I can understand the guy, but obviously it would have probably taken me longer, and our argument would have taken longer until I found it. But I just sat there and I listened to him, and I understood that behind the argument was something that caused that some time ago. Okay, so it wasn't even that. That's just something that exploded because of something that happened before, but I haven't been talked about. Once I allowed him to vent and I understood what the reason is, I'm like, yeah, well, he's 100% right. I would have not won anything by arguing back with him, but I've gained everything by letting him talk and understanding where his pain came from, and that's how I'm like, wow, that was very eye-opening to me. And since then, I try to practice it whenever I argue with somebody or debate with somebody. The point is not to prove your point, it's just understand the other person.
And I completely agree. And there's a saying, I think it's when you listen to understand, don't listen to respond. And a lot of people do that. And I catch myself doing it all the time. It's helped me calm down not to talk over people, because it's easy that when you say something that I really want to make a point to, I'll jump in and talk over you. Yeah. And where does that get us, right? Let me let you finish your point. Let me finish processing what you're saying, and then I can say what I need to say. And I see a lot that. But I think it's also because we all have common sense, right?
Not so common nowadays.
I'm not going to listen to somebody's debate on why trans ageism is okay, on why it's okay for the person sitting across from me, not you, but talking about make-believe person over here, that, well, it's okay for me to be attracted to, 13-year-old boys.
My curtains?
That's not okay.
No,
absolutely. And
certain,
I'm not
certain things are non-negotiable.
And I'm not going to try and understand where you're coming from. Yeah. I may try and understand where you got that from so I can help you get help and help you work through the process. And I think that's where therapists come in handy, because therapists will sit there and listen to you and really dissect.
Well, I don't know about that nowadays. They have managed to get into the therapist field as well, like Jordan Peterson, right? Look at what they're doing to him right now.
And that's a different story. I think that's something that's probably a different conversation. But in general, I think, and I've seen a therapist before, and I think they're fantastic.
So have I.
And they help you. That was the best thing. I don't know if I could say her name or not, but she was fantastic, because all she did was constantly ask me questions. Yeah. And my greatest awakenings, epiphanies, eye-openers were the ones where I said it myself and I realized, oh,
that's crazy, huh?
Got it. I get it now.
They're so good at doing that.
I get it. So, and I think that to them it's an art form, and it's an ability that most people don't have, because we will listen to argue. You could listen. You could come to me with, hey, Jason, I got this problem, and my girl or work or my mom and my kid or whatever the situation may be. Me being a problem solver, I'm going to sit here and say, Alex, I got it. This is what you need to do. And you may do it hesitantly, or you may not be receptive to it because that's not what you were looking for. Whereas a therapist says, oh, tell me more, Alex. Tell me. Yeah. Oh, okay. So what did you do then? Well, how did it make you feel? Did you think about this? Did you ask this person that? And after so many sessions or so many conversations or whatever, you're like, oh, that's what I was supposed to do. I get it now.
Listen. I think that's what's different between. I love that you said that, because that's what makes it men different from women, right? Because we are problem solvers.
At least we.
And I had this conversation.
I don't know if we solve problems, but we try to be.
I had this conversation with Nicole a lot of times. I just want to solve problems. Like, give me a problem, right? I want to solve it. I'll listen to you the first time to understand what the problem is, and then I will start calculating solutions. Okay, that's what I do best. I get paid to do it. That's what I do best.
100%.
But they don't care about a solution. They just want to be heard. Once I realized that, I was like, hey, all I got to do is listen. I don't have to always give her a solution, because my mind goes into a fucking drive mode. We're going to do this, and that. And I was like, no, just listen to what I have to say.
I forget.
Let me spill my emotions out.
Right. No, absolutely. And I forget the name of the Instagram page. I follow this couple's Instagram page. They give couples advice all day, every day. That's all their videos are about. And I think they're fantastic.
Like
they're
we
amazing.
are right now.
Yes, exactly. But one of the things that the guy said was, when your lady comes to you and starts talking, there's nothing wrong with saying, okay, real quick, do you want my advice or you just need me to listen? I'm down to do either one. You let me know.
I love that.
But I thought it was fantastic, because how many arguments would get solved? How many situations or conversations would go a lot smoother if I came up to you and said, look, Alex, I don't need advice right now, dude, but work was stressing me out, and I just got to throw it out there, dude. Let's go grab a beer. And we meet for a beer, and I just diarrhea of the mouth. It all comes out, and all of a sudden I'm better. Okay, good.
It's crazy, huh?
And you walk away like, oh, cool. I didn't have to say anything. I didn't have to give him advice. I don't have to get upset because he didn't listen to my advice. Nothing. We had bro time. It was good, and we're all better for it. As opposed to, I need your advice with something. Yeah. And now you're in that zone of, okay, let me process this. All right, let me listen to Jason. And the reason I would come to advice, because you're a confidant, you've been through some things. You told me you had a similar situation. You're a married guy, and I'm engaged, and you've had 10 years of successful relationships. We're able to dial that through, and I look to you as somebody like, hey, you can give me some solid advice on this. Yeah. And I think that's where, especially in relationships, there's nothing wrong with telling your lady, do you want some feedback or you just need to listen? I'm happy to do both.
I'm going to try that. Because I often go into it.
And I thought it was great advice because I will tell you, my default is if even nonchalant, we're out having drinks and you're like, oh man, my partner, my coworker and my boss and, this guy that works for me, you best believe in the back here, it's that meme with the person thinking and all the geometry and the physics and all that. Yeah. That's going on in the back of my head.
Always.
You know?
I that's 100% true.
Yeah.
100% true.
And I wish I could say I came up with that advice, but no, I heard it from somebody that looks like, at least on Instagram, right? It's Instagram, but they look like they have a successful relationship and they're always giving advice.
But so knowledge is free, but using it, right, requires some effort, right? It's like, I think if I get it, I don't want to butcher right now, is willing is not enough, you must do. Knowing is not enough, you must apply. Bruce Lee said that. I had that poster and that quote in college, and I was like, oh, shit, that makes a lot of sense.
It does.
And speaking of that, that actually brings me to my next topic, right? Applying the knowledge, right? Or knowing something and not using it is the rite of passage for men, right? How important, well, first of all, what is rite of passage in your opinion? And second of all, how important is it in a man's world?
That's a tough one because I think it's a two-way street.
Okay.
If you were my mentor in whatever field, friendship,
I think we're always each other's mentors.
But let's just say officially, let's say we work together in the same company.
Yeah.
You were a senior carpenter, journeyman, whatever. And I'm your apprentice.
Okay.
You might have a certain expectation of what it is for me for the rite of passage to move up to journeyman, the next level, fifth period apprentice or whatever. I may have in my mind, I'm like, especially in today's world, we live in a world of entitlement. And I deal with this all the time with interns and new hires and all that. They're like, well, I've been doing this for 6 months. I should get a promotion. Well, no, it's not based on that. It's based on
what kind of value
your performance and your value, right? And I think I'm fortunate enough to have had mentors that would sit me down and say, what do you want?
Yeah.
Why are you here? I'm obviously employed by the company, but they would literally, as you and I are sitting right now, would say, okay, what do you want? Why are you here? What are your goals? And on this flip side of that, they would let me know their expectations. Mm-hmm. And we'd be able to move forward from there and kind of move on to that rite of passage to the next step. Mm-hmm. Right? And I think, in life and in masculinity, it's one, what is my expectation of myself? Because you could have all the expectations of the world from me as a friend, as a coworker, as if I were biologically your brother, even if I were your son, right? Let's say we were fast forward, you're 30 years older than I was, and I was your son. Mm-hmm. You could have an expectation of me.
True.
If I don't have expectations of myself, neither one of us are going to get to that point where I get that rite of passage. So I think ultimately it needs to come down to that conversation of, what is that expectation? Now, if there's nobody on the other end of that, if it's just you're the lone wolf, which happens all the time. There's nothing wrong with that. You move to a new city. You don't have mentors. You just started a new job. Where is that? But it's that expectation of yourself. What are your morals? What are your goals? And you got me that book, Masculinity Manifesto. By Ryan Michler.
Yeah, Ryan Michler, yeah.
Fantastic book.
Great book, right?
Because he breaks it down to, what are your morals? Are you a man of your word? Do you have drive? Do you want to be protector?
Provider.
Do you want to be provider? Do you have a good work ethic? Like he spells all that stuff out. And I ultimately, I think it's as long as you can lay all that stuff out, you're going to get that rite of passage to manhood. But all that has to be clearly identified, and you have to do that internal homework.
But do you think it needs to be disclosed or it needs to be taught? So in my opinion, for example, like if I were to raise a son, right, the way I think I would do it as a man, right?
You'd make him wear dresses.
That's actually fucked up. That would never
only
happen.
because I know how you feel about it.
If that ever happens in my house,
only because I know how you feel about
something
it.
is seriously going wrong with me.
Only because I know how you feel about it. Do I joke about it?
I want you to monitor it.
Trust me, dude.
If that ever happens,
I'll be the first one to call you and be like, bro, why is your kid wearing the dress?
Please, you must. You promise me.
100%.
Promise me. Okay, if
100%.
that ever happens, it's not me. It's
100%.
a clone of me. It's somebody who looks just like me, dresses just like me, talks just like me. It's not fucking me. Tell you that right now.
Absolutely.
Tell you that today.
I get it.
But jokes aside, I think my goal is to, fuck it, dude. The whole entire goal of this podcast channel, okay, and the message that we're trying to give to the world out there, this is really, really fucking deep. I'm getting really deep right now. Is, to me, this, if something were to happen to me, right, tomorrow, a year from now, 5 years from now, and I happen to have a son that grows up without me, I want him to know this. I want people like you in my life, to be there for him, right, to at least give an idea of who I was and what kind of person I was, what kind of man I was, and I wanted to hear what I had to say, to teach him that, So that's what it comes down to. It is the message that I want to leave for the world, and essentially pass it on, to my children. Mm-hmm. So what I'm trying to say is, it's teaching your children. Like, I would want to teach my son all these things of how to be a man, right? Instill accountability, discipline, responsibility, being a gentleman, right? All that stuff into him, right? How to be a provider, how to be a protector, how to be responsible, how to work hard, how to be able to defend yourself, how to control your emotions, how to develop your body, how to eat clean, all those things, right?
Right.
So that at the end of the day, he can, when in a tough situation or when a situation where life really tests him, he can make the right decision. And that, for me, will be his rite of passage. Because if you sit down and you tell somebody, Jason, I'm your dad, Jason, at the age of 26, you're going to go and, swim for, 2 miles, then ride a bicycle for 26 miles, and then go do 25 pull-ups, and then go whatever it is, right? And that's your rite of passage.
Right.
Because, well, guess what? This guy's going to train and do the same exact shit for the first 26 years of his life to prepare for that. But he's going to miss out on everything else, okay? Miss out how to do certain other things, right? And then he's not prepared. But I think the rite of passage is if you ultimately develop yourself as a man, and then when the life hits you, or when you're faced with a decision you need to make, and you make that decision, right, and you earn the respect of others, you earn your right at the table, okay, you make the decision, and other men see that, like, oh, this dude deserves the seat at the table. He's put in the work and he's made a decision.
Absolutely. And I think that's one of the scary things about what's going on today. Or in any, I shouldn't say today, in any era.
It's always been like that.
In any era in time, there's multiple rites of passage,
yeah.
Right? So have you ever heard that song? It's by Immortal Technique called Dance with the Devil.
That song, oh my God, man. It's a phenomenal song.
It's a phenomenal song. It's sad. It's scary.
Sad,
but
horrible, but it is a phenomenal song. It is.
But to certain lifestyles, that is the rite of passage.
Yeah.
Right? He was faced with this dilemma. He wanted to be with this crew. He's a young
hard,
kid. He wanted to be hard.
Accepted.
Hey, if you want to be with one of us, if you want to be part of our crew, you're going to be set for life. You got to pop this old woman. We've raped her.
You got to rape her and you got to kill her.
And you're going first.
And after he raped her,
he takes off the mask. Finds out his mom.
That's his mother.
Right? But at that point, in that situation, that was his rite of passage. So there's your rite of passage, what I would consider our rite of passage, because we tend to think along the same guidelines.
Yeah.
There's different avenues in life. And so your kid, my kid, the billions of kids in this world, right? And they're all different, because you have kids in Nigeria or in Africa that get kidnapped and trained to be rebels and all that, and soldiers and all that kind of stuff. That's their rite of passage. And I think ultimately, at least for us, it's up to us to establish what that rite of passage is.
Yeah.
Because someone else is describing another rite of passage. And then there's another lane with another rite of passage. So when it comes to rite of passage, I think it's up to you to decide whether you have kids or not.
Yeah.
What you're doing right now is outlining a rite of passage for somebody.
It doesn't have to be your child.
Right.
Like, you're earning a seat at the table. You know, like just like tribes throughout centuries. You know, not every civilization out there had a standardized governmental system and two parties and this and that and three branches of government. No, it was okay, a bunch of chiefs, right? And to earn your status, to earn the right to sit at the table, and be part of the tribe, right? You have to do certain things, okay, gain certain respect, gain certain status, okay, prove yourself as a warrior, okay, prove yourself as a conqueror, as a provider, and then you earn your seat at the table, and then you can speak, and then you can make decisions for the tribe, right, amongst the men, the leaders of the tribe. That was your rite of passage. What is it nowadays? It's fucking blue check mark on Twitter, on Instagram, and flashing and money and all this shit.
And
but
honestly,
in real life,
like when I think about it, and we go back to the whole like masculinity for the daily man. I think that's one of the challenges that I try and constantly try and navigate. Is I'm sure Shakespeare wasn't a killer warrior, and I'm sure he didn't get
know.
and I'm sure he didn't get all the ladies, and he didn't drive a Bugatti or have the nicest Bugatti, or the nicest, what at the time would be a horse, the equivalent of a Bugatti, right? The most expensive like horse or whatever, chariot,
Mustang.
But at the same time, because of his successes, right? Because of what Beethoven brought to the table, we do have great music.
Yes.
And so, in my opinion, they deserve a seat at the table.
Yeah.
Right? And so, as long as you clearly outline the example, and it's fair, and it's understanding of everyone's position, it would be arrogant of me to say, "Oh, Alex, you don't make $1 million a year. You can't hang with me and my crew, because you don't make $1 million a year. Oh, you don't make six figures? No, you can't. Oh, you don't drive this fancy car. Oh, you haven't started your own company? You can't sit at the table with me." Right?
Yeah.
There are people who have done great things in society. Elon Musk, to me, who I admire. I have my mixed feelings about some of the stuff he does with the New World Order and globalization.
But that's the beauty of Elon Musk. He keeps you on your toes.
But at the same time, who he is as an individual, I think he's brought so much to the table. But go ahead and put him in a ring with Chuck Liddell.
Yeah. I think we both know how that's going to end.
You know, and I have nothing against Floyd Mayweather. I think he's a talented boxer, that's for sure. But what has he done to advance society?
Yeah.
Outside of he's entertainment.
Yeah.
Right? But and I think Andrew Tate's talked about this with the Paul brothers. They're like, rewind the clock 500 years, they're the equivalent of court jesters. They're entertainers.
Yeah, they are. They're clowns.
Right? Maybe
clowns in the court.
Which is the younger one who's like the harder boxer? Jake? Is it Jake Paul?
Yeah. No. Yeah.
Jake
Logan,
Paul.
I think.
Logan's the older one, I think.
One of them. Honestly, I don't really give a shit.
In any case, one of them is actually a talented boxer, I think. You know, and don't get me wrong, I'm not. They both probably kick my ass. There's nothing wrong with that. But at the end of the day, when it comes to things like that, I look at like, what do you bring into the table? And so to me, someone like Shakespeare, who probably couldn't run a mile, probably not the most fittest person in the world. That's just my guess. I didn't know the guy, obviously.
How dare you?
Elon Musk is no CrossFitter. He's probably not going to do a triathlete or be a triathlete. But at the same time,
Elon Musk, if you're listening, I have nothing to do with him.
Yeah, right? I love Elon. Elon, I love you. But at the same time,
do not ban me from Twitter. Thank you.
Right? They have their place and they've done great things.
Yeah.
They're game changers.
Definitely.
And so for me, a seat at the table, that needs to be defined as, what does that mean? What is the table? And you get to decide on the rite of passage as what you're going to leave as an expectation for the next generation.
I would have to, agree with you on that one. And I think that directly, brings me to the next topic, and is what we're talking about, is developing the status, because the Paul brothers have different status in life.
Of course,
Shakespeare had a different status in life, and it's not necessarily, you're not gonna, like you said, get the seat at the table by being necessarily the top GCEO, right? You get your status in life by providing some kind of value to people. Shakespeare provided enough value that hundreds of years after he died, we still enjoy his music, right? I highly doubt someone's going to know who the fuck the Paul brothers are after they die, because I don't see absolutely any value in anything they're providing, And funny you mentioned, I said, they're both said both. One of them is a great boxer. Definitely, I'm not gonna compete with those guys as boxers.
No,
they'll lay me the fuck out.
No,
but what I have a problem with is there are professional boxers out there, that spend majority of their life training, and it's not an easy sport. I've boxed before. It is a tough sport.
Oh yeah.
100%. And they spend their entire life, they dedicate their entire life, their discipline, sacrifices, their families, their lives, their whatever they got to do to train, to compete, and then they don't get nowhere. And then you have these Paul brothers, entertainers,
they already have the fame
who learn, okay, again, I'll give them credit for learning how to be boxers. It is not easy, okay? Tried it. I know you tried it. It's tough.
Right.
But how can you compare them and give them so much money where there's dudes out there who spend their entire life perfecting the art, and they don't get shit?
Right.
That's the problem that I have.
Right.
So we also drift out in life of somebody's status. Like, you might have a certain status, but then you try to drift away into a certain category, and that confuses men. What is your status as a man, right? Are you an entertainer? Are you a developer? Are you an engineer? Are you a CEO? What are you? Like, you develop your own value, right? And by developing your own value, like high value man, like Kevin Samuels, rest in peace, used to say, right? There's certain pillars, with like 5 or 6 different pillars, ought to be a high value man. And you gain, you develop a certain status. And ain't shit is given to you when you're born as a man. It's given to a woman, and it's right between her legs, and if she's good looking, she has that value. For us, dude, unless we're born to something, we have to develop ourselves and provide the value, and develop certain value, and develop certain status. You know what I'm saying?
I would agree to some of that. I think value needs to be defined.
You love defining everything.
Well, because it's important, right? Like these glasses. These are pretty cool glasses, I think.
Thank you. That was a gift.
Yeah. They're a gift. Let's just say, I'm going to make it up. Let's say this was your dying grandfather's literally last gift. He died on your birthday and he brought this to you. And was like, hey, happy birthday. And then he had a heart attack and died. And your grandfather was your idol. Yeah. Someone could offer you, and let's say you're financially stable, you don't need money, nothing. And someone said, Alex, like, I love those. And I'm going to give you $1 million for them because I have to have those. And you say, no, my grandfather actually made those for me. So what's the value in it? $1 million? You're like, no, I don't want $1 million.
Now it has a sentimental value.
Elon Musk, who just bought Twitter, could say, I'll give you $10 million, and he won't bat an eye. That's like buying a Snicker bar for him, maybe 2. Nothing. And you say, absolutely not, because to me, this is my value. This is more important. Yeah. So when we talk about high value man, to me, someone like Jordan Peterson is more of a high value man than the Paul brothers combined. And they're worth hundreds of millions.
There's not even discussion about that. That's
but
100%.
And I think that's where it's important to define what is value when we talk about high value man. Are we talking about the Jordan Petersons? Are we talking about the Ben Shapiros?
But doesn't that go back to the common sense like you mentioned earlier? If you think what Paul brothers provide to you is of any value, I think it's fair to say you lack common sense.
I would agree to that. I totally would agree, but I think it's important anytime we talk about, because there's certain terms I think, and I think it's just me being old school, right? I just turned 40. Certain terms it irritate me. Like we were talking earlier, like bussing and what was the other one?
Clout.
What was it?
Kyle.
Dead ass. Like certain terms.
All that good
certain
stuff,
terms.
Right,
and to me, they're buzz phrases, right? Like body count. Everyone's talking about body count. Everyone's talking about high value man. Throw the terms around all you want, right? But when you talk about, like when Andrew Tate talks about it, high value is money. It's status. It's your financial status. That's all it is. If you put Andrew Tate's wealth, financial wealth, against Jordan Peterson, shadows Andrew Peterson, or it shadows Jordan Peterson. Jordan Peterson doesn't exist if you talk about that. But to me, high value, I don't care how much money you make. I really don't. But are you going to be that game changer? Are you going to be that person that leaves that mark on this planet? And to me, I will listen to, and I think Andrew Tate has a lot of great things to say. There's a lot of things going on in his life right now. I have my beliefs about it, right? And the suspicions and my tinfoil hat. But at the same time, I look at someone like Jordan Peterson. And the guy speaks so much, and the guy's not masculine. Like
I think he is.
No, but hear me out. He used
to be a heavy lifter.
No, hear me out. When I say masculine, I'm talking about what most people paint as masculine.
Like not like Jocko Willing or Andrew Tate type of like persona.
He's not a fighter. He's not,
yeah.
you know. But the guy has so much knowledge, and to me, he's the like, and it's probably not a true statement in as far as like apples to apples, but he is like the Shakespeare of our time. Like he is going to leave a mark on what it is to be a man, right? And to me, like when you look at him, go ahead and put him in a ring with, okay, so there's two different kinds. Put Jocko and Andrew Tate in a ring.
Yeah.
Jocko's going to take it, I think. It's my opinion.
Yeah, unless Tate knocks him out first. Jocko will definitely destroy him on the ground game.
One's a bona fide killer, a trained killer, and the other's
with a confirmed body count.
The other is a trained boxer with rules.
Kickboxer, yeah.
With rules.
But the kickboxing world is tough.
It is. I'm
not
downplaying his skill set. But what I'm saying is one can go into a situation with no rules and dominate, and the other one can dominate and he has to have the rules. Or at least been caged by rules, right?
I think they're top G's in their own different categories.
Fair enough. But then put Jordan Peterson in the mix. And he's an older guy. He's a little on the more frail side. But in my opinion, he can teach me to be more masculine than Andrew Tate can. Because Andrew Tate's going to tell me, you need to have a lot of girls. You need to have a lot of money. You don't have to be faithful. That's okay, because you're a guy and that's acceptable.
He's referring to the 1% of the world.
But the 1% is based on the money.
But let me. I'm going to argue there, actually.
Let's do it. Let's disagree.
I can tell you that from, I guess, a personal experience. First of all, Jordan Peterson, right? I think I refer to him as Socrates. Remember that one episode when he had
I think that's better.
with Jocko Willing?
Yes.
To me, that was the equivalent of Leonidas from 300 Spartans talking to Socrates. When like those two dudes talking, it was a killer warrior and an absolute wise man.
I will officially retract my Shakespeare comparison because I think your Socrates is better.
Give Shakespeare some credit.
No, I do, but I think your Socrates is better for sure.
Okay, I will compare somebody to Shakespeare later, but I think it was Jordan Peterson is definitely a Socrates of today's era, and Jocko Willing is like Leonidas. That's to say about that. But to go back to our topic, I know from a personal experience, okay, I would like to move more towards wisdom in my life now. At the point that I am, obviously, I'm still going to work on myself. Fit my physical status, my strength, my all that good stuff. It's needed for the body, right, for the mind. But I like to develop wisdom. But I haven't came to this point in my life without going through, the getting girls, getting all that stuff. It is for me personally. I'm not telling every dude do it the way I did it. That's how it came to me. Okay, I had to have gone through the phase of, the girls and blah, 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 and the partying and, establishing myself and getting that confidence and building myself up to then realize life is not about that. Okay, I am better off with one woman who keeps me focused, okay, who keeps me grounded, where I can now channel all that energy that I used to spend on women and partying and drinking, blah, 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 into what I really am passionate about.
Right.
But I don't know if I would have came to this conclusion had I not gone through all this shit. So to defend Andrew Tate, okay, maybe, you never know, maybe he is just at the level of his life, because if you really, really follow Jordan Peterson's career, his younger ages and stages, he reminds certain things he says about himself remind me of people like Andrew Tate. But now he's a wise man. And also keep this factor in mind. A person who's like in his early 20s will have a hard time understanding Jordan Peterson. I have a hard time understanding Jordan Peterson. I had to reread his book, 12 Rules of Life, twice to understand it. He is so intelligent that I had to pause, go back, listen to it, pause, go back, listen to it multiple times sometimes. But Andrew Tate, simple. Money, Bugatti, whatever. But I think
because he sells what's attractive.
But eventually, I think if you channel your energy as a man in the right direction, and you really harp on what he's trying to tell you, be independent, work on yourself, okay, defend yourself, make the money, you will come to a conclusion that, okay, now I need to be a little wiser. I need to make better decisions. Now I need to figure out how to channel my energy, how to follow my passion, how to be independent, how to depend on the government, or the matrix or whatever the fuck you want to call it. I think that's my belief.
Yeah. And I think, and I will just respectfully disagree with you, because once again, I think, here's my take on Andrew Tate. I think he has a lot of great things to say. I won't agree with everything he says, but I think he has a lot of great things to say. But I think he is a master of marketing. And he talks about it. He had his marketing
Well, that's
company.
how he blew up.
He has marketing company, right? Yeah. But he also, I don't want to say boasts, but he definitely talks about how he made his first success, right? With the, we'll call it the original OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Right? The cams.
Yeah.
And he blatantly tells how he would have guys typing to other dudes in America or across the world saying, send me money, as if they were girls. Like, it's based on deceit. Mm-hmm. So what he's doing is he's being that example to younger generations, to people that are susceptible to the nice cars and the money and the girls and the mansions and the airplanes and all that kind of stuff, and saying, hey, I can do this, you can do this. So he's grabbing their ear, right? He's relying on that emotion. Mm-hmm. And morally, I don't care who you are, with few exceptions, right? Like, you can lie to your girl and say, oh, we're going to go to dinner Friday night, but really you have a surprise birthday party going on. Mm-hmm. Technically it's a lie, but that's kind of acceptable.
It's a white lie,
right?
Guess, is the name
we'll let that one slide.
Yeah.
But what he's doing is he built an empire. He started an empire on lies.
Yeah. False promises.
He had girls working, and I've heard I've heard a lot of his podcasts where, and it's just a dude typing, oh, send me money so I can come visit you. Oh, here's $2,500. Oh, I went to the embassy today and they needed more money for my passport. Yeah. Okay, here's another $2,000. And then they go radio silent on purpose. And the guy's like, oh, you're fake. Well, whoever's on the other end of that line, right? The guy in America or the millionaire, whatever. You lied to me. You're not even a real person. And then there's a dude on the other side of the computer again. You know what? You hurt my feelings. Never mind. I thought you were something. I thought we had
Special.
something.
Yeah.
I'm not going to go anymore. Oh, here's $10,000 more. It's built on lies.
Yeah.
And where I think the danger is that's what's attractive, and that's what's being sold as the norm, and it's okay.
And this is why we are where we are today.
And so you may think, well, when I was younger, I needed that, and I had to go through that. But did you need that? Did you have to go through that?
I think what taught me, I'm not giving credit to everything that I have become and to everything that I am at the point in my life. I'm not giving credit for all that to the girls and to the party and all that. No, I'm giving credit to my own self-development.
Right.
But it will be hard for me to judge and say, you can't connect the dots moving forward. Steve Jobs said you can only connect them moving backward. And so I can't say, I can't appreciate what happened to me and what I have done in my life, good and bad things, because they brought me to where I am today. Mm-hmm. So me and you right now at this point of our lives have similar beliefs, right? But we came to this conclusion differently. Mm-hmm. So my route might be different from yours.
Right.
But somehow we ended up here.
Right.
So it will be very egotistical and, I guess, of me to not acknowledge that fact.
And I won't disagree with you. I think what we need to do is just be careful or very cautious of using the excuse. And a lot of people do. We'll look back and say, well, I needed to go through that to get to where I am today. I don't think anybody needed to be addicted to drugs. I don't think anybody needed to be a womanizer. I don't think anybody needed to do all the bad things they did to get. That was their avenue. There's no doubt about that. There's nothing wrong with acknowledging and say, hey, I went through all these things and this is where I am today. Right. But that doesn't mean that it needs to be acceptable for the next generation. That doesn't mean that I don't need to express to the younger generation or my kids or my loved ones and say, dude, you don't need to go through what I went through. Right? Think about it this way. When you look at innovation, Elon Musk isn't the inventor of electricity. Mm-hmm. He isn't the discoverer of electricity. He isn't the inventor of battery power. Mm-hmm. Batteries have existed for years before Elon Musk was born, right? But what did he do? He stood on the shoulders of giants and said, I'm not going to go through what they went through. I'm not going to make the same mistakes they did. And what I think what's happening with someone like with Andrew Tate is young people look at that and they say, Well, okay, he did all those things, so he made mistakes. Morally, I would never tell my kid, well, it's okay to lie to somebody if you're going to make millions of dollars.
Yeah.
It's not. It's absolutely not. But it's being normalized in society through someone like Andrew Tate. And being sold is like, well, if you got to go through that, that's okay.
Yeah.
So I'm not discounting what you went through. I'm not discounting all your experiences. All I'm saying is we need to be cautious of what we sell to people and say, well, I had to go through hard things and figure things out the hard way, so do you. I'm sure, 100%, I'm sure you would much prefer that your kids didn't go through the bad things that you went through. Because I'm sure you can look back and say, man, I went through some hard breakups. I made some big mistakes. I made some financial mistakes. I made some emotional mistakes. I made some moral mistakes.
A lot.
We won't get into how many girls you've been with.
No, I'm talking about.
No, but let's just say, let's say the number was 10.
Okay.
Would you want your daughter to have gone through 10 people?
No, absolutely not.
Right? So you would pitch to your daughter, hey, look, you're going to make your own mistakes, and I hope you minimize those. But here's some things that I've learned so that hopefully you can minimize that thing along the way.
Definitely.
And it would be the same thing to your son.
Yeah.
You know? And that's all I'm saying is we just need to be cautious of what we sell as, hey, I went through this, and I'm glad I went through that because it got me to where I am today, and that may be the case. But don't let it be an excuse for the next generation.
That part I would agree with you about. Good.
Yeah.
Well,
But that's my now that I'm 40. At 25, I had different advice.
I'll remind you of this conversation when I'm 40.
Yeah, thanks, buddy.
But I think we covered it all, and we hit some points. We'll definitely revisit the topic of transgenderism that you mentioned. That
now there's transageism, but yeah, transgenderism,
whatever it is.
That's an interesting one too.
But I think they had enough for today, and yeah, you disagree with me, but
but we've disagreed before.
I'm glad we have, because like I mentioned earlier, it's understanding that a person's perspective. That's what the whole point
Absolutely.
is. Yeah.
Absolutely.
But Jace, thank you for coming out, brother. It's always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure, my man.
Like I said, I can talk to you about anything and everything.
Yeah.
And
in all honesty, like I truly feel honored that you would ask me to be here, because I value you as a friend, right? You talk about high value. You're a high value friend.
The honor is mine, brother.
And that the simple fact that you would ask me to come out here and have these conversations means a lot to me. So I appreciate you.
Thank you, brother. Likewise.
Right.
And thank you guys for tuning in. See you next time.